My name is Jerry Sam. I work with an organization called PenPlusBytes. What we're doing is we merging new media with old school reporting journalism. So we're adding ICTs to the traditional journalism work. And over the years, we've been training journalists across Africa to use ICT tools to advance their work. We work in the area of, since we started in 2001, we're training journalists basically how to do simple things like opening email accounts, using mobile phones to report and stuff like that. And then we realized that there's so much that we can use technology in advancing the work of journalism. So we specialize in governance and accountability, new media and innovative tools, and then oil, gas, and mining. Oil and gas and mining was quite recent. We started doing work around oil and gas when Ghana discovered oil in 2007, 2008. Like many other institutions in Ghana, the oil fell on our lap surprisingly. I say that because we didn't have a lot of capacities in dealing with our newfound oil. So media, like the other organizations, didn't have capacity to report on the sector. What we found was that the media houses and journalists were basically rewriting press releases, attending workshops and reporting on what has been said in the workshops. So basically it was just one-sided reporting from the industry and not from the journalist side and from the citizen side. So we decided to create this platform called Reporting Oil and Gas. The Reporting Oil and Gas, the idea behind it was to create a select group of journalists across oil-producing countries. So we started off from Ghana, select a core group of journalists to train them in undertaking investigative reporting, also using ICT tools to report. And then from then on, we partnered with Revenue Watch Institute. Daniel Kaufman said a lot about what we're doing, so I will not spend much time on what we've undertaken so far. But then we started off in Ghana, we then went to Uganda with Revenue Watch, and now we're in Tanzania. And last year, we added Liberia to it, which is also found oil. So basically, we use both offline and online tools. So offline, we do intensive training workshops for the selected journalists to be able to undertake investigative and in-depth reports. I'll give a few examples as I go along because I'm told I'm limited with time. In Ghana, we're able to, through our work, we're able to do a report about a flow meter, 40 flow meter, which determines the quantum of oil being produced and exported. This flow meter had been 40 for a period of time. And through one of our journalists that has been trained, we're able to do the investigative reports, determine the millions of dollars that Ghana was losing. And what the journalists found out was that we were using a dipstick to basically dip in to find how much oil was being produced and exported. And then to determine how much revenue we were getting as well. And this was just left to the imagination and whims of the oil producers. And the country was losing out on that. So this is some of the actions that out of the work that we've done. We also have a collaborative online platform. What we find is that the media houses, a lot of the media houses in the countries that we work are not really interested in reporting on the sector because they more often want to report on what the citizens, sensationalism stuff. So a journalist trained will go and do a very nice piece on the sector, nice investigative piece. The media house is probably getting advertising money from one of the oil companies and will not be interested in reporting it. So we came up with platforms that allows journalists to circumvent this the editorial systems in place. So they can report freely on our platforms that can be picked by international media, picked by anti-corruption agencies as well. Journalists were trained to create their own blogs, use social media to do their work. We also have an online dialogue, a forum of a sort that we have citizens, industry experts, journalists come on the platform to debate and contribute on key issues affecting the sector. So recently we had something on local content, where all the contributions are made, informed how the bill was drawn and the act passed, and also the LIs in implementing the local content bills. We do a lot of advocacy in the area because we're getting all these reports. CSOs are doing a lot of research. What we realize is that CSOs do all the research, and then the research will be sitting in their libraries and stuff. So the journalists are trying to go pick up this research work that is done, blow it up in the media, be picked by anti-corruption agencies to work on those things. So this is one of the platforms that we use. It provides basically news, and the investigatory reports are all done here. It gives journalists tools to use data journalism to interpret financial documents and other stuff from that sector, and it's reported on the platform. This is a report that we sent to the Petroleum Commission of Ghana on the online discussions that we did, and all the recommendations that was done, criticism of the acts as well. This is an example of an in-depth report that was done by one of our journalists to see the cost of the oil production on the environment. So basically, you see the spillages, and this is the Niger Delta, where contracts are awarded behind the scenes. The citizens suffer, especially those in those areas where agriculture is the main source of income, and then also how the contracting is done that doesn't pay attention to the environment. So journalists are empowered to report on how contracts are awarded. In the countries that we work in, most of the countries that we work in, realize that there's not much openness in award of contracts. So journalists now, every contractor is awarded, they go behind the scenes to, write more on it, promote transparency around contracts that's awarded. The key problem with regulation and monitoring is the institutions that monitor don't have that capacity. So in Ghana, we have parliamentarians who are supposed to provide oversight on regulation and monitoring, sitting on boards of some of these oil companies. How do they provide oversight responsibility over these issues? Then tax collection and collection of taxes and royalties. Also, journalists are trained in these areas. So basically, across the value chain, journalists are, given knowledge and information on what right questions to ask that will inform citizens on what is happening in the sector. How is the money being used from the resources for development? Okay, I'll go to other areas that we're using technology to promote transparency and accountability. PenPlusBytes does African Elections Project. We started in 2008. And the African Elections Project started off basically to report timely on elections, chiefly to reduce anxiety, promote transparency in elections, and basically have credible elections across the continent. We've done 13 elections across the continent, and over the period of our work, we realized that there's been growing apathy amongst electorates. Elections has been reduced almost to the 4 or 5 year cycle in the countries that we covered. So citizens go and vote, and then wait till the next time to be able to hold elected officials to account through the ballot. So if I'm not satisfied within the period the elected government is on, I don't have an intervention, I don't have a space to hold them to account till the next election where I can, say, punish them by not voting for them. So we came up with projects, post-elections projects, that citizens will be given platforms to hold elected officials to account within a time period. So we came out with the Because Accountability Counts in 2009-2010 after Ghana's election. And basically what we did, we picked the manifesto promises of the elected government, picked our key issues in health, education, jobs, energy, and then we broke the manifesto down into pieces that citizens can identify with. And then this broken down promises are sent back to citizens through SMS, through community radio programs. So basically we combine both offline and online means to hold government to account. So citizens have a flow of information that they know what the government promised them. And then based on this information that they have, then they can question government. So you have citizens actually sending messages to our platform to say that this promise of building, for instance, a health post in my community is not done. Or they can congratulate government and said, oh yes, they promised that within 2 years, they're going to build a clinic for us, and it's done. So we had all these promises, and we categorized them to either promises being stalled, accomplished, or failed, or is in the process. And this is also given, we give feedback to citizens who use this information to hold elected government to account during the next election as well. I'll move on quickly. With the same project, we moved on it to the grassroots level. So this time we looked at the district assemblies. District assemblies development plan matched with their budgets. So we look at districts. So for instance, we just look at Bangalore, for instance, instead of the whole national concept. We look at a district assembly. We pick out their development plan, and then its matching budgets. We broke it down, and then we send the same information to citizens. We hold community radio programs that citizens can contribute to it. Within these community radio programs, citizens actually tell us what's the issues that they are facing and what they would like the government or the district assembly to do for them. So within the period of the officials being in power, these tools help citizens to hold them to account, and also at the same time throw more light on what they are doing and provide transparency in that area. Currently, we're doing a project with the Parliament of Ghana, basically providing effective feedback to the Parliament of Ghana using new digital technologies and citizen engagement. Basically, the Parliament is supposed to hold sector ministers to account on promises that they make on the floor of Parliament. So these promises come in, we break it down, we send it to the people. The people know about the promises that is made on the floor of Parliament, and then they send feedback to us wherever they are. So if, for instance, a promise is on the road construction, citizens can give us, news as it happens, as whether the contractors are on the field to construct the roads, and then we pick up all this SMS. It comes through SMS and web forms. All that comes out, we pick it up, and then we analyze them, we make them into quarterly reports, and we send it to Parliament. Parliament then can, based on this evidence-based information, can call the sector minister to the floor of Parliament to answer to why a promise is not being delivered, or it's not going by the time frame that they promised. Okay, so I end here. I'll say that ICT is really helping our communities. It's breaking down the barriers that citizens used to face in holding governments to account. Before, they didn't have any intervention, or they have to queue to even see the district chief executive or a minister. But now, they can send an SMS. And through our platform, we can work through Parliament and hold duty bearers to account. The same ICT tools, we're using it to track and monitor the activities of government, provide a platform for citizens' voices to be heard, and at the same time, making sure that duty bearers are held to account, promote transparency in governance, and then at the end, basically improve the lives of the citizenry.